hello again from WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. I'm Josh Manning, Deputy Managing Assignment Editor for the Western Journal. Joining me today on my left, Michael Austin, reporter for the Western Journal, and on my right, the illustrious founder of the Western Journal and author of Big Tech Tyrants, Floyd Brown. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me today on WJ Live.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, good to be here.
We've got good stuff to talk about today and a pretty packed show. We're going to be talking about everybody's favorite ridiculous Democrat, Maxine Waters. And normally she's ridiculous, but I think she's probably graduated from ridiculous to dangerous at this point. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about vaccine passports and what Arizona is doing to stop those. We're going to compare that to what's happening in Michigan with Gretchen Whitmer. And Floyd is just back from what he told me was the most canceled conference ever. He's going to be talking about the police, defunding the police, and things of that nature. First off, we're going to toss it to Michael. Michael, tell us about Maxine Waters.
So, Maxine Waters, there are calls to expel her from Congress now. Why? For inciting violence. She was speaking in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota the other night, and she was talking to a bunch of protesters about the shooting of Daunte Wright, and she was asked about the Derek Chauvin trial over George Floyd's death. And she basically said that if there's anything less than a murder charge, that people should take to the streets, they should, get confrontational. And she knows full well that there have been deadly riots happening for over a year now. She knows all of that, and yet she's still saying this. This is a clear incitement of violence, unlike what we saw with President Trump not too long ago. But we have a video for you guys to see just kind of what Maxine was saying.
We're looking for a guilty verdict. We're looking for a guilty verdict, and we're looking to see if all of the talk that took place and has been taking place after they saw what happened to George Floyd, if nothing does not happen, then we know that we've got to not only stay in the street, but we've got to fight for justice. But I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away.
And not just manslaughter, right? I mean...
Oh, no, not manslaughter. No. This is guilty for murder. I don't know whether it's in the first degree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's first degree murder.
Well, nothing like mob justice.
As far as she's concerned, it's first-degree murder. First-degree murder isn't even, in play in the Chauvin trial. He's been charged with second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. That's what Chauvin is convicted of.
Well, you can't allow the facts or the law to get into the way to
Right.
they just want a good old-fashioned lynching is what they want.
Or due
That
process.
is it. That is it. It is essentially, yes, it is essentially a lynching. She's not interested in due process, not interested in the definitions of these. Was it CNN's chief legal analyst earlier today commented about how the defense was defining reasonable doubt, about reasonable doubt, and not whether or not he was guilty.
Yeah, and to get to
these are related things. You can't get to the one without the other.
And to get to more of the example, the incitement to violence, this is what Waters says that protesters should do if the right verdict is not reached.
What should protesters do?
Well, we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
How much
How
more
confrontational can you get than burning down blocks, throwing bricks through store windows, terrorizing families? She wants it to be more confrontational. Does that mean she wants them to bring weapons? Does she want them to bring hand grenades?
Yeah.
Molotov cocktails aren't
Pipe
enough.
bombs.
They've already been using all of those violent means to confront the police and to confront the citizens. What does, clearly this woman has incited the community there to violence. She should be arrested for incitement to violence.
Well, if they're going to go after Trump for that, which they did, they should go after her for it. And you were right. You know, this has been going on for over a year now, and she helped kick it off in the first place. You guys remember the video?
Yes.
And I should have, if I had been on the ball, I would have gotten us to cue that up ahead of time. But remember the video where she said the same thing: "Get in their face, get in their face, get in their face."
You know, the other thing I just have to. This is an aside, but looking at this video, I just have to laugh because this woman received the vaccine to get the vaccine. So I thought the vaccine was all about then you can't get the virus. But this woman is covered in more PPE than anyone I've ever seen. So if she's got the what good is the vaccine if you still have to parade around in a mask and a face shield and look like an idiot?
Right. And if you're worried enough to wear a mask, why even go to a crowd at all?
Well, yeah. But remember, it's the Democrats who have said it was Pelosi who was encouraging people in San Francisco to get out. Come on down here and party with us.
Yeah.
When all of this started.
Oh, at the beginning.
At the beginning. Now, I will say it is a lovely leopard fuchsia face mask she was wearing.
But I mean, this is someone who's gotten the vaccine. I thought the vaccine was about getting back to normal. Obviously, these people, they don't ever want normal again.
Because normal means power returning
they lose
to
their power.
The people.
Yeah.
It means people getting to go about their lives. It means no scare tactics. It means people living on their own without the government assisting them, literally with every breath they take. That's why they don't want this.
But
so why you'd get an experimental vaccine just to run around in that same, personal protective equipment? I don't get it. I don't get what does the vaccine do if you're going to still get the virus? I mean, she's dressing like I'm going to still get the virus. Either the vaccine keeps her from getting the virus, or she's still going to get the virus. But which is it? I mean. Which is it?
They're members of Congress. They're part of the political class. There's one thing they're not. It's rational. But they are really good at keeping their own power.
And you know what? I don't think 2 masks is enough. I think we need 4 and 5. Maybe we should just stuff a hanky down their throat. That would work.
There were real stories saying
how about
5
how about
masks.
plugs up the nose? Instead of earplugs, we'll put the plugs up the nose. Well, I mean, these people they live in absolute fear.
Have you seen the little respirator units some people use that are like full face coverings with fans and everything? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Okay, the truth is I've had COVID. It wasn't fun, but guess what? I'm healed of COVID. COVID isn't a death sentence. Unless you are seriously, seriously ill.
Yeah.
My 80-year-old parents both got COVID. They survived. 90 COVID survive. This is such overreaction for these people to run around in monkey suits. I mean, it's crazy.
My aunt was a lifelong smoker. She has COPD. She got COVID. It was the mildest case you've ever seen. We've got an uncle who's a lifelong smoker. He got it. It was a rough case, but he survived. It's my mother-in-law who has heart problems. She got it. She came through it. And by the way, she came through it. I think we saved her life by giving her hydroxychloroquine on the front end. It was hydroxychloroquine that we had gotten from Mexico because you can't get it here.
When I got it, I took hydroxy. It helped. I took ivermectin. It helped. I was taking vitamin D and zinc. Both of those helped. There is treatment to COVID, and only the suppression of good ideas by bad politics has gotten in the way of it.
And focusing
but
our efforts.
I don't want to get the podcast canceled because we're not supposed to talk about this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the one that needs the sock down my throat.
Well, that's what they would want, right? That's what they would want. The idea: silence everybody who disagrees. Silence everybody who disagrees.
And that's why we see the difference in treatment between Waters and Trump. Trump, they were saying, oh yeah, he incited the riots. But here's what Trump actually said at the Capitol kind of rally shortly before the incursion happened. He was talking about, we won this election and we won it by a landslide. We will stop the steal. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. I mean, you have to connect so many dots there to make that as if that he was inciting the violence that happened. Right before it ended, he even said, we're going to the Capitol. We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably going to be cheering not so much for some of them. That was the last thing he said before they started marching down to the Capitol.
Those fighting words.
Yeah, I guess that means destroy everything.
Not be so. What was the last part of it? And not be cheering so much.
So much for some of them. So that's what he said about the senators he doesn't agree with.
So that's the call to violence.
Well, I've never understood why Trump supporters would do anything to stop the presentation of the evidence of vote fraud. If you actually look at the results of what happened that day, there was a number of people, including Senator Cruz, that were just beginning to present the evidence, and all of that was stopped. That's why I've been dubious about this whole January 6th being an act in support of President Trump. And I think more is going to come out, but we know for a fact that the New York Times has said that there was a stand-down order. We know that that it was very strange the way the barricades came down and opened up. I've talked to people that were in the Capitol. They walked through. There was and spent a lot of time there. There are multiple checkpoints, like multiple checkpoints. First you get in the building, then you to go to different places in the building, you go through additional checkpoints. All of that just melted away that day.
A late-breaking piece of information on this, too. The police officer at the Capitol who died, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
I don't got it.
It looks like he did die of natural causes. It was a stroke. It was very unfortunate, but that, again, undermines part of this narrative.
Well, and, there were people among the rioters at the Capitol that were just simply waiting in line. Do you remember that?
I love the stanchions going through one
they
of
were
the
going
through
within the
rotunda.
stanchions.
Yeah, and the stanchions. Those are the things at the bank and the movie theater that keep you in line, right? The two strings, and they're just walking through. I've seen very few coups that were that mannerly.
Yeah, there were people that did things that day that were violent and wrong and destroyed property.
Oh, sure.
But I'm still not convinced those are Trump supporters.
Well, if all I know is if I were running a PSYOPs campaign against the other side, I would embed. I don't know that there were people embedded. I have no idea. I just know that's what I would do.
There could have been some of that. We do know that kind of the QAnon shaman guy. We've seen him a lot in Arizona. He was definitely a QAnoner, which is a really small minority of voters.
But they would want you to think.
They want you to think it's everybody.
They would want you to think that it's everybody.
But the guy just walked in. He didn't. I mean.
Oh yeah, he wasn't really.
It wasn't like he did anything violent to get in there.
Yeah, and we probably are going to get canceled on this podcast. Who cares? But it has bothered me from the beginning. Yeah, there are people who are violent and they should be dealt with. There were also people who were told not to be in the Capitol who walked into the Capitol. Yeah. And it's just not really clear to me how you can keep people out of the people's house.
And then, not when the doors are open.
Wholly unreasonable.
And you had, opposed to that, you had months and months and months of Black Lives Matter protests devolving into riots where small businesses were destroyed, where police departments were just totally destroyed as well. Molotov cocktails being thrown, gunshots going off.
Which gets to my topic.
Floyd, you were just, and I want you to get to that, but you were talking about burning down blocks and everything. I don't know if you guys saw, was it overnight? There was a church that had Black Lives Matter signs in the windows and everything. It got charred overnight by the Antifa crowd, or at least that's who we think did it. So anyway, go ahead, Floyd.
I spent this weekend at a conference, the Health and Freedom Conference in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and there was a lot of security there, a lot of police officers, and I walked into the coffee room I wanted a cup of coffee. And there were 4 police officers in there. One gentleman was an African American, and then there was a white woman, and then 2 additional white officers. And I poured myself a cup of coffee, and I turned around to them, and all I wanted to do was just express to them my thanks. And as I did it, I was overcome with emotion. I said, you know, the truth is that what you do every day to protect us, I am so thankful for that. But it was when I said this that I was just overcome with emotion. And what these people are doing to the police is just wrong. And as I looked in their eyes, I couldn't help. I started to cry. And the emotion, and I could see their eyes, and they were looking at me with such appreciation for the thanks. And it's one of those moments I'm going to remember for a long time. And it made me vow to do a couple of things. Whenever I see an officer, I want to say thank you. I mean, these people have been treated so poorly. They're all, you know, they're all lumped together. They're people like Maxine Waters treat them as if they're murderers and killers. We ask these people to go out and protect us. We ask these people to keep us safe from crime. We ask them to go find the murderers and the drug dealers and the burglars and the extortionists. We ask them to do that. And then to repay them for their patriotism of actually doing it, their goodwill of actually doing it with this vicious hate campaign is evil. And you can't call it anything but what it is. And it is evil. And so I'm going to remember that moment for a long, long time. But I just want to encourage everybody that's listening to also think about, you know, when you see an officer, tell him thank you. Tell him you don't want to be part of this campaign against the police. In fact, you want to be the opposite. And the Democrat Party has just been overcome by a very small sliver of left-wing thugs, really, that are trying to get the police defunded. And when people like Biden go along with it, and Nancy Pelosi go along with it, and Chuck Schumer go along with it, shame on them. Shame on them. It's wrong what's happening. Shame on them.
And it's working. They are defunding, you know, police departments across
Well,
the
and
country.
murder's skyrocketing as a result
because
of
that.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people aren't
To take care of riots like what we're seeing in Minneapolis. And so, you know, you could see a direct correlation between that. Andy No talks about this a lot. You know, Portland is kind of the perfect case study where the smaller the police department got, the less officers available, the more Antifa and other groups were just able to just do whatever they wanted because the police can't afford to send units to, you know, respond.
You know, you were talking before I think it's before we went on the air about how Maxine Waters said, get confrontational, get in their faces or whatever. And after that, there was a drive-by targeting some National Guardsmen.
Yes.
And we know that officers have been targeted too. And we know, I mean, you guys remember, I think it was last year, we've had this off and on for a few years, really, since the Obama administration. But, you know, you had officers just shot in their cars. Floyd, I love your suggestion of making time when you see somebody going up and saying something to them, and maybe just treating them like you treat vets. You know, I make it a point if I see somebody wearing a Vietnam hat or well, you don't see many Korean hats anymore, but Desert Storm or anything like that, I try to thank them for their service. I mean, do the same thing when you see somebody with a badge. Do the same thing when you see somebody
Thank
in
you
blue.
for your service.
Thank you for your service. Thanks for putting your life on the line. one of the saddest but most satisfying narratives that has come out of all of this is the defunding of the police, followed by the immediate calls to 911 to get help by the people who have defunded the police. And we've seen it over and over again. And you want to talk about just a complete fraud and really evil. Evil's a good word for it. When you go out to the neighborhoods that these police are supposedly terrorizing, that Democrats say they're terrorizing, those folks want the police more than anybody else does.
The reason a community has an increased police presence is because members of that community are calling police more often. There's more violent crime. There's more whatever.
And then you have people like Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. They live in a bubble. They have personal security. They have armed guards around them. They travel in motorcades, in armored SUVs. They fly privately. They don't, go to the airport and struggle through the same things that we go through at the airport. They live a different life. And for those people to have the audacity to try and take away the little bit of protection those of us that are normal people have, it's even more appalling.
And they do it in the name of, African Americans who, the majority of which want more police. They do not want their police to be defunded.
Yeah, and so you take the police, and now they're targeting guns again. You take those away. You make people completely and utterly dependent on the state. And then the state won't show up. They defund the state. They defund the police departments. It is a recipe for disaster. It is a recipe to destabilize the country, to destabilize, I think, metro areas. And the power grab we've seen with COVID, I think, is just a rehearsal for what they want.
People have got to wake up. We can't let this continue. We can't let it continue.
Yeah.
We're all at risk.
We were talking about this before we went on the air. There are stories out there right now, probably the top 10 stories that the Western Journal's covering right now. Any one of them would have just exploded into the biggest stories of the year 2 years ago. And people just aren't even engaged in them now because it's been so normalized. The left has so normalized the chaos and the destruction and the danger. And so then I think you and I were talking about this earlier, Michael. The question then is what's next? Because they're not going to let it stay normal. They're going to keep turning the heat up. So what is the next thing that they do? And I don't know what it is. It's a truly terrifying thought because, how much worse can it get and everyday life still look anything like traditional American life?
Right.
I don't know. All right.
Well, you could.
So your topic is a excellent follow through to this. Speaking of normal life.
Speaking of normal life, be careful who you elect, folks. Turns out elections have consequences. And we're going to talk about two different governors in two different states. Today, Arizona Governor Doug Ducey came out and issued an executive order making vaccine passports illegal. He didn't come out saying, hey, we're not going to do them. He didn't come out saying, hey, this isn't a good idea. Hey, we should be worried about this. He came out, issued an executive order saying, look, vaccine passports are not going to happen here. You cannot ask people essentially to show your papers, which is what all of this has sounded like to me from the beginning. It sounds like Stasi, Eastern Europe, East German stuff.
Well, and I just don't get it. I mean, as Maxine Waters demonstrated earlier in the broadcast, she's had the vaccine. And she's worried she's still going to get COVID. I've had COVID. Why do I need the vaccine if my blood is coursing with the antibodies that fought it off? I mean, this goes against, they always say, let's follow the science, let's follow the science. They have broken all of the science of viruses that I've ever learned my entire life, which is you get the virus, and then guess what? Your body fights it off from then on.
Yeah.
Well, and for those that are worried about, they'll get it. Just get the vaccine if you're worried about that. Like, just
well, obviously
everyone can get it now. So,
and then that's one of the things earlier. Johnson & Johnson. That it was what, one person in every million, one person every 10 million had a reaction. I can't remember.
Ridiculous.
Unbelievably small number.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration pauses the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I mean, what an unbelievably stupid mistake, unless you're wanting chaos to continue and you're wanting people's fears to continue, in which case it's a brilliant decision.
They can never claim the right wing is an
Anti-science.
anti-vaxxer
anti-vax.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Well, and that bothers me too. I mean, this entire idea, follow the science. I don't know what that means when people say it. The science is not something you follow. It's not a group of conclusions.
Yeah, it's a debate.
It's a process by which you attempt to learn things. And when you shut down
discussion,
discovery, and experiment,
right?
You stop science. You can't follow it.
Yep.
It's a strange thing, but it sounds nice. It sounds very follow the science.
Yeah.
Well, Floyd, I believe in science. It sounds smug.
We have great science on the masks already. They don't work, and they cause people to get sicker. One of the things that there was a session about children wearing masks at this conference I went to, and they had pictures of children that had all kinds of sores on their face.
My daughter has acne.
From staph infections.
Yeah.
That they're getting from these masks, because think about this. These kids are in the masks all day. So they go to school, they're in the mask 6-7 hours. Do they launder the masks? No. They throw them into a container. They keep them overnight, and the kids put the very same masks back on the next day. And I mean, it's totally unsanitary, and it goes against any science we know. The kids aren't going to die from COVID anyway. So one of the parents that came, she was able, because her daughter was getting these staph infections all over her face and these open sores and boils from wearing the mask at school all the time. She finally got a medical exemption to it. Do you know what they did to her kindergarten daughter? They made her sit in a plastic bubble away from all the other kids. Now, to me, I mean, that poor kid is being treated as an outcast, is being treated as almost a leper.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And these are kind of like the barbaric things that quote we used to do back in the old days.
Yeah.
And that poor child, and the masks don't even help anyway.
Yeah. And that sort of treatment is exactly what vaccine passports kind of incentivize.
Yeah.
So
who you vote for matters.
But I mean, if you've had COVID, why do you need the vaccine? I don't understand that, except to fatten the profits of pharmaceutical companies.
I don't understand it either. I do applaud Ducey for doing what he's doing here, and Ducey's not always the fieriest conservative Republican out there, but he did the right thing here. And it contrasts just remarkably with our favorite Democrat governor, Gretchen Whitmer, in Michigan, who has single-handedly destroyed a state really with an amazing history of industry and innovation. But while Ducey was saying, hey, we're not going to let vaccine passports get a foothold here, Whitmer and the bureaucrats in Michigan, they were pushing to continue their state of emergency, all of the mandates that go with it, all of the bureaucracy, the regulations that went with shutting down businesses and those things. They're wanting to push it for another 6 months. And essentially, the alarming thing about this is that there's not a whole lot that the Michigan legislature can do to stop them. The executive really has got control there. And if I were in the Michigan legislature next year, I would be trying to figure out how do we rewrite things such that the executive can't go just go for broke like she's doing. But essentially, bureaucrats are moving to impose permanent regulation. Well, this is Reason called these permanent, and they're not actually permanent. They're renewing them for 6 months, and then they'll look at them again. Regulations that would mandate mask wearing whenever employees are within 6 feet of someone else, daily health screenings. This is for businesses. Daily health screenings, extensive record keeping, and keeping a COVID-19 safety coordinator on site. Boy, talk about a useless job that is. Retail stores, personal care services, and other businesses open to the public would have to become the mask police. They'd be required to make all customers wear masks. Again, Floyd, vaccinated or not. Who you vote for matters, folks.
And I don't understand, why do they need the mask after they've had the vaccine?
Compliance.
Fascism.
That's it.
It's fascism.
It is forcing people to behave in a way that they would not behave if you weren't imposing strict consequences.
Just let me
go.
Let me just
Go.
tell you how it works for me.
Go.
I don't go to a business that requires me to wear a mask. Period. End of story. If they want me there, they're going to drop their mask mandate. The only place I'm still wearing a mask is on an airplane, because I can't get thrown off of airplanes.
Right.
I couldn't do business.
Right.
But I'm actually even thinking about beginning to start taking long driving trips across the country to get away from these crazy masks. Okay, I have asthma. Okay, so I have shortness of breath anyway. I have asthma. I survived COVID. I can't get it. I can't give it. Okay, it's that easy. Why do I have to wear a mask? I don't want to wear a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask. If somebody tries to make me wear a mask, they're going to have to put me in jail and tie me down, and I'm still going to rip the mask off. They'll have to handcuff me to have me wear that mask. I am not going to wear their masks.
I'm picturing the Hannibal Lecter mask strapped onto you now. That's what they're going to have to do. You're a big guy, Floyd. It's going to take a lot to... You don't want to wear a mask.
The science, I've read the science, okay? I can think for myself. I don't need some bureaucrat like Fauci telling me I got to wear 2 masks.
Yeah.
That guy's an idiot.
Well, and these people, you know, the expert class, they're only experts in this tiny little itty-bitty, teeny slice of their field. When you get them anywhere outside of that, they only know marginally more than the average person.
So I spent a lot of this conference this weekend hugging people without masks. And guess what? I feel great today. Okay? I'm not going to live in fear. If you want to live in fear, I don't care. Live in fear. Stay home. But don't make me live in fear. Don't make me live like I am in fear. My Bible tells me, fear not, for I am the Lord your God, and he's going to protect me. Okay? I trust in God. I trust in Jesus. I don't need these people, and I definitely don't need their masks.
And on that note, it's good, Floyd. It's good. Believe it or not, in the newsroom at the Western Journal, there aren't a whole lot of masks. Anyway, this is WJ Live. We are powered by the Western Journal. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to click the subscribe button. After you click subscribe, you'll be able to click on a little bell off to the side. That bell's going to make sure you get notified every single time we go live. And we do go live 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for reading our content over at westernjournal.com. Thank you for your support in doing that. If you feel led to support us in a more direct way, you can always go to westernjournal.com/join. That's westernjournal.com/join. We've got several different ways you can partner with us there. With really some neat perks for you if you join in the fight with us. That's going to be it for us today. We will be back here though Wednesday again, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. For Michael, for Floyd, I'm Josh Manning with the Western Journal. Thanks for being with us.
Exposition, which is essentially a world fair.
Time to go.
And she was also a historic.
got an audio version too.
And she was also historic for being the first kind of